What would happen if you made the decision that from now on, you're not going to suffer in the present moment from what happened to you in the past? In other words, the past does not define you, does not define your present, does not define your future. If this is interesting to you, I'm going to show you in a minute how to begin to bring this alive in your life. In the meantime, my name is Dr. Elisha Goldstein. I'm a psychologist, I'm an author of numerous books, and I'm also the creator of a mental health accelerator program called Uncover the Power Within. If you're interested in working closer with me, learning a bit more about that, or even getting just free resources, go ahead and click on the links in the description below. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Why are we ruled by our past, our history of trauma, our childhoods, things that have happened to us in the past seem to define and make decisions for us in this present moment? It's the reasons we struggle with anxiety. It's the reason that we are arrested by our trauma. It's the reason that we continue to fall into depressive episodes or just feel stuck in general with procrastination or just feeling limited in the beliefs that we have or the actions we take in our lives. Why is this? Well, think about this for a second. Our brain is a bank of memories. So every moment we have in our life is being recorded, and in a lot of ways, it's being used as a bit of a Rolodex to make sense of this present moment, to plan and anticipate for the future. As a result of this, we are oftentimes, our identity is created by what we're told or the culture we live in or the experiences that we have. And if we don't believe we can do something, or that we're not worth a particular outcome or a particular action or a group of people, then our brain will say, yeah, not really interested in going after that. So we become limited. And so it's upon us to begin to break free from that. Recognize that these are just limitations based on memories and history and do not need to define us in this present moment or our future. So I want to play with something with you. It involves a few things. One is a practice that I've given over these videos many times over, but the importance of hearing it, even if you've heard it before, is that repetition is what creates change in our lives. And on the other end of it, on the very end of it, I'm going to give our brains a direction and a practice to begin bringing it more in our life, and I can explain to you why it works. Okay, so the first thing we have to do when we are in the midst of a limiting belief, let's say, or of feeling stuck, or of knowing that we are being ruled by our past and we're making a decision right now that we're not going to be ruled by our past. Our past is not to need to define us and have us suffer in this present moment or in the future, is to recognize when that's happening. That's the first step. If we can recognize when we are stuck in a loop of suffering, whether it's an anxious loop, a depressive loop, a stress loop, whatever we want to call it, it's a loop of suffering, then we are able to step outside of it. We're able to move into a space between stimulus and response. As the great neurologist and psychiatrist Viktor Frankl has been attributed for that saying, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So we're able to step into that space, and then we have to recognize that our memories are not just in this like big noodle of tofu between our ears. It's in our body. Our nervous system's in our body. It's our brain wraps around our spinal cord through our arms and hands and hips and legs, and so it's in our body. Our body holds our memories. As the wonderful psychologist Bessel van der Kolk once said, our body keeps score. So it's in our body. Our memories are in our body, and we can feel it, because when we are stuck, you can feel it's a somatic reaction. So we have to recognize, we have to release now. So what do I mean by releasing? Again, just as a reminder, to some of you have heard this before, but if others have not, we can shake, we can stomp our feet, we can take a deep breath, We can release our muscles. This is a way of just, the whole purpose of this is to widen that space between stimulus and response. So now if you widen that space, there's more choice and possibility and freedom that you have in that moment. You have more personal control in that moment. And then we want to do something that's going to be defining in this moment. We want to refocus. So now we have the ability to ask a different question. We ask our brain questions, it searches for answers. So we ask ourselves the question, how do I want to be in this moment? How do I want to be in this moment? So in other words, if you don't feel like you can go speak with someone, if you don't feel like you can write that book, if you don't feel like you can respond calmly in a particular moment, if you don't feel like you can respond differently than your past trauma reaction or your past reactivity that you've done in the past, or the way you just see yourself, I'm just an anxious person, we say, because that's the identity we've taken on. We've been told that, we've experienced it in our lives, so we just feel like we're fixed. No, that is not the case. If you call yourself an anxious person, yeah, well, you'll continue to be an anxious person, but that is not who you are. You are this awareness, and you have the ability to shift and change. Your nervous system might hold those memories, but you can recognize, release, and refocus with a different question. That's the 3R formula. So the question now is, how do I want to be? I don't need to be defined by the past anymore. I don't need to be defined by my memories. I don't need them to make me suffer in this present moment. I could define a new future. So we ask ourselves the question, how do I want to be in this moment? What's going to be most supportive to me in this moment to move me in the direction of this renewed identity or this new way of being? Now, with that, we want to rinse and repeat. But with that, and practice it several billion times, repetition is what rewires the brain. So it's like with anything else. You can also call it a habit. In neuroscience, we call it rewiring the brain, but in the field of psychology, we've also called it habit formation. So this is mental habit formation. It becomes embodied habit formation, and it's real and it's possible and you can do it. So the next thing I want to support you with, this final practice, is to understand that visualization is really powerful. There was a study at Harvard many years ago which had a group of people play piano for 3 weeks, and had another group of people actually just visualize playing the same score of the piano, and they show the same growth in the motor cortex. So that just shows us the power of visualization. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to start pairing new memories with this renewed ability that you have and that you're looking for. So the renewed practice is to be able to engage in that moment in the way that you want to. So let's say that's engaging with your kids in a more calm manner, or engaging with your parents, or with your coworkers, or maybe that is when you're feeling like overwhelmed or flooded in a particular moment, in a particular context, going outside, or speaking on stage, or anything like that, where you think that where your mind says you can't. Then you imagine yourself doing that. And then as you're doing it, you recognize, release, refocus. How do I want to be? You bring it in the moment. You imagine it engaging in that moment, taking some deep breaths, softening your body, maybe feeling confident in that moment. Something that's maybe, again, what you're wanting, but not something that you're used to experiencing. And you imagine it all happening within a great field of yes. Your brain, because of your history, is saying no. No, you can't. No, don't do this. And there's a lot of no around it. Instead, you're allowing it to arise in your mind with that experience, engaging that moment differently within a greater field of yes. And just imagine that energy floating in it. This is, again, rewiring your brain to see it differently. And yes, you can do this. Yes, you can. And so you're imagining it happening within that field of yes. So practice and repeat this. This is how you can make real change happen. This is how you do not need to be defined by the past. You do not need the past anymore to dictate your present moment suffering or what's possible in the future. Use this. Use it with other people. Share it with people if you think they can benefit from it, from growing out of their past limitations too, from allowing the past to define their present moment suffering and the future that they hold. Do it together. support each other. If this was helpful, then go ahead and like this video. If you have not subscribed here already, we put out great weekly tips every single week that are going to support your mental health and you living your best life. So go ahead and subscribe. And my name is Dr. Elisha Goldstein. I will leave another video on the other end of this for you to continue learning and growing with. I look forward to seeing with you in the next one.